Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop!
Now, here's Jim Coyke.
Yes, it is. Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another Thanksgiving-esque celebration as we get closer and closer to the day of Thanksgiving. Next weekend, right? Wow, it's here. Can't believe it. But it is. Getting ready to eat. Do some eating. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you being with us. Hope your day is going well. I hope your week went well. Even if it didn't, it's Friday. You made it to the end. Appreciate you. If you're driving around, keep it locked right where you got it. You've got it right where you need it on the radio dial. As you traverse through the day, even without us, you've got it in the right spot. And if you're on social media, you know what to do. Just reach up there and hit that like button, please. And subscribe if you haven't already. Speaking of subscribing, I've been telling you, you need to go to thehoosier.com and subscribe to keep up with everything that is going on much more in-depthly. And not only that, but big prizes throughout the as the president would say, prizes. We all like prizes, big prizes. We're going to do it bigger than you've ever seen. Biggest prizes in the world. Not really that, but nice Adidas gear. Here's an embroidered Adidas jacket. As you can see, I'm wearing one with the Indiana Sports Beat logo on there. I love that personally. Got the Tiger Woods look going today. Got the red shirt on. But we've already had a winner. First winner. Cameron Mead up in Valparaiso. He won a jacket. He's a new subscriber, but he's also in the running for that grand prize giveaway of the Adidas team issued winter coat that is like a $300 coat. That's actually not public. If you're the public, just can't get this. This is not accessible to the public. Quarter zip and an IU backpack valued over $400. Go to thehoosier.com, subscribe, and make sure you send me your user ID so I know it to put it in. Indiana basketball, not sure how much of a user ID they had last night. Not much of one. Today we're going to talk to James Fletcher. Looking forward to that. And we'll take a break here in a second so we can get actually to him a little sooner than instead of just talking to me. But James Fletcher is the On3 bracketologist, and it's still almost impossible to determine where one is going to wind up in as far as the CFP goes. It's we got to play the championship games. We talk about whether these games are even necessary, and I don't know that they are personally. I would never have thought that I would have said that, but things have changed so much that all of a sudden, conference games, it's not that they don't have value per se as far as prestige, but now they're just kind of in the way of what is coming next. Because if you're in a conference championship, you have a team obviously capable of winning a national championship. And you don't want to get guys hurt. You don't want to. You could use the rest usually. And a host of other things. So, but what do? You've got to wait until these conference games play out now. And to see if you, in the case of the Big Ten, it's just a difference between a seeding spot most likely for Indiana or maybe 2 for Ohio State. I don't know. Would they drop them that far? I mean, 2 spots doesn't sound like far, but if you're the reigning national champion and you've gone this long, all season long, wire to wire almost as national champions, are you going to, I don't think that they drop them below. If Indiana were to win that game, yeah, they'd move Indiana up to number 1. I think they'd move Ohio State to number 2. If Indiana lost that game, I think that they'd move it to 3 and possibly 4 if Texas Tech goes on and wins out and wins the Big 12. And if there's so many scenarios, if Alabama gets into the SEC championship, they've got a couple losses. Even if they win, you don't have to give them an automatic bye. And I don't think that they'd get the 3rd bye or the 2nd bye. Or they wouldn't get the 2nd bye necessarily. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about it with somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. James Fletcher will join us as we'll break down the scenarios that lay out in front of us. Plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it on this Friday, right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday as we head into another weekend deep into the college football season. Week 13. Ooh, unlucky week 13. James Fletcher joins us from On3 Bracketology, baby. Bracketology in college football. Not a term we've used much before, but it's come around because we've added these teams. The Big Ten wants to add more. I'm a Big Ten guy, but I am not about that big whatever. I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. There's more than enough slots right now, James, I think, as far as teams that are capable of winning.
Yeah, I agree. This is something that not only do we talk about with the basketball tournament, but we talk about with the football tournament now. It's always about expansion. It's always about how many teams can we cram in there, especially how many of these Power 4 conference teams can we fit in there. Everyone who's outside the playoff picture you see right now, either they fired their coach or they feel like it should be expanded. Everybody who's inside pretty much thinks it should stay where it is right now.
And thanks, James, for joining us. James with On3 Bracketology. Again, when you have an On3 subscription, I don't think I know you don't. You don't understand the all-encompassing information that comes with that, not just for your particular team, be it Indiana, but you also get all of the national information, like from folks like James and all of the great writers that we have on and things like that. So you cannot imagine the information that comes from On3. But now that, we're into all these scenarios, James, and I put out a tweet yesterday. I go, the word you're going to hear too damn much for the next 3 months, scenarios.
Yep.
And that is it, because there are, even Indiana's path is clear as crystal clear. But there are 1,000 damn scenarios that go along with that. Is the funny thing. They can lose and they're fine. They're not going to be impacted. Ohio State does not have that luxury. Mm-hmm. Then, even though you get to the Big Ten championship, you go in 1-2. I think if Ohio State loses, I think they only drop to the 2 spot. If Indiana were to lose, I could see them dropping them to 3 and possibly 4 because they want to get Texas Tech into that fourth, one of those 4 slots, and they're primed to get in there.
Yeah, I think that's just about right. I think that with Indiana, we're talking about obviously you got to get past that Purdue rivalry game. You never want to take any rivalry for granted, but I think that one's about as locked in as you could get on that final weekend of the season. So once you get there, you talk about an undefeated regular season, and we've seen that this committee has been pretty solid in that they are going to rank the undefeated teams at the top, and then the 1-loss teams and the 2-loss teams. The selection committee, the new chairman, Hunter Yurachek, even said as much last week after they revealed the rankings. He said, just look, we did 0 losses, 1 losses, 2 losses. We're going to compare you based on how many losses you have against your opponents. So if we take that route, we're talking about Indiana. If they can win the Big Ten title, they're the number 1 seed. It's locked up. They have that spot. You're talking about number 1 and number 2. You win that matchup, you're going to get the 1 seed. You're going to go likely to, in that case, to the Rose Bowl. But if you lose that game, I think that
you said likely there. They can't even for certain say that they're going to the Rose Bowl if they win the Big Ten championship. That's the thing that basically sucks.
Yeah, that's the really interesting part of this is that they give preference to the number 1 team. And so Indiana would actually, their staff and administration would have a decision to make at that point. You have 2
Oh, so the teams get the decisions?
They give preference to the conferences and their alignments with each bowl. But of course, the Big Ten has an alignment with two different bowls in this case. They have the Rose Bowl and then the Orange Bowl, which also has a tie-in to that Big Ten conference. So I would assume that Indiana, given the much deeper history they have with the Rose Bowl, would then choose that route. And of course, the historic significance of that bowl as well. I would believe they would choose to go that way. But of course, the Orange Bowl, a much shorter journey if they were to decide that was important to them and their fans being able to more easily get to that quarterfinal game.
Yeah, and the fact that they've only played in that game once, and that was in 1968, I think that's another thing that the Big Ten Conference has done in the past. If it's been longer since you played in that game, and that Indiana has covered in all bases when it comes to that. I was just trying to think of a scenario, knowing that the Cotton Bowl is salivating.
Yes.
Salivating, wanting to get Texas Tech and there's nothing to say that they still can't get them in that bowl game, but if they're a top 4 seed, how does that scenario play out?
So for Texas Tech to end up in that Cotton Bowl spot, we're looking at Texas A&M having to be the number 2 team above them and getting that Sugar Bowl slot, because that actually, it's interesting, if you go to the College Football Playoff website, their official frequently asked questions page, it singles out the Sugar Bowl specifically. In this case, we were talking about giving preference to the teams that have a conference tie-in. Well, the Sugar Bowl has a Big 12 and SEC, so whichever of those conferences has a higher ranked team is going to get that spot. So the situation where Texas Tech gets the Cotton Bowl would then, yes, be for Texas A&M to get the 2 seed. They go to the Sugar Bowl, and then Texas Tech would get the Cotton Bowl, which does not have any conference tie-in at this time. That would leave Indiana, if they were the 4 seed, to go to the Orange Bowl, because as we said, Ohio State likely would take the Rose Bowl with the historic significance of that game in the Big Ten.
Let's say Indiana's the 3 seed. Let's say they lose to Ohio State and they get moved to the 3 seed as expected. My question is, though, would the committee actually move them purposely to the 4 seed to move Texas Tech up to the 3 seed to make that a line? But if proximity has anything to do with it, obviously Indiana closer to Dallas, Texas than it is to Miami, Florida.
Yes, but again, we go to the conference preference there. They have the tie-in to the Orange Bowl, so I believe if they were the 3 seed, they would probably still be shipped to Miami in that case. Really? In what ends up turning out good news for Indiana, I don't think they're going to manipulate any kind of seeding here based on that in order to get you into a certain bowl and Texas Tech into another.
Well, it's going to be warm no matter what. That's a good thing, and it will not be warm in Bloomington, Indiana at that time. Then now it comes up. Now what comes up is Indiana is on a bye this particular week, so and much needed. Their offensive line is dinged up, beat up. They've got guys that are like everybody this time of year, beat up. And then they have the one final game you mentioned with Purdue. James Fletcher, the bracketologist from On 3 with me. And then immediately you've got the Big Ten championship game. Then they would have 3 weeks off in essence before their next game, while other teams would play in 2 weeks or I don't know, week and a half, something like that. It's goofy. But conference championship games. I never would have thought that I would ask this question because of the reverence that you still have for them. I mean, the Big Ten championship, the SEC championship, Big 12 championship, for that matter. These are still marquee games. These are very, very important things to win in the lore, the annals of college football. But now, with how things have changed, they're almost, I don't want to say a hindrance, but I don't know the right word to use for them, but unnecessary is one of them. unless you're a team that barely makes it into your conference championship, and you can vault in the seeding. But usually if you listen to the committee, not a lot of movement coming out of these unless there's an upset.
Yeah, that's what's going to be really interesting about this year's cycle is that we know the ACC and then that fifth highest champion as well, probably coming from the American Conference. We're assuming at this point, given the way the rankings have fallen the last couple of weeks, we know that they're going to get like the 11 and 10 or 12 seed because they're off the pack. Even Miami, the highest ranked ACC team, probably not even making their conference championship game. So that leaves us with the three conference championship games to talk about. The Big Ten one is likely going to be number 1 versus number 2 in the country. So you can't go wrong there. Like we said, they're probably both locked into those top 4 spots. But then you look at the Big 12. You talked about Texas Tech and the potential for them to move up the board if they win that title. Well, BYU is going to get a rematch, and we know how hard it is to beat a team twice in one season. BYU is currently off the back end of the current college football playoff field. So if they win, I think it's highly unlikely that they move all the way up into the top 4 and get a bye. Same situation in the SEC where Texas A&M, if they can win against Texas, will make it. And Alabama is currently the most likely team to play them in that final matchup in Atlanta. And so what happens if Alabama wins that SEC championship? I don't know if they're going to be able to move all the way from 10 all the way up into this conversation for a top 4 seed. So it gets really interesting if we have a couple upsets in conference championship weekend. We could end up with a scenario where even if the loser of the Big Ten title game suffers that loss, they could still end up the 2 seed if things fall right for them across the country.
Yeah, it's because the SEC has got it a little wonky. I mean, it would be odd, but if Texas A&M stubs their toe against Texas, they're out of the top 4, but that would also potentially get Texas back in, because I think Texas is out right now, and I think deservingly so. But yeah, it's odd. The SEC appears to be deep. We think they are. I mean, I think they are. But even as a Big Ten guy, I've seen, and we'll talk about this more later, but the Big Ten obviously the best at the top, and it's not just because of opinion. Man, I pour through these statistics, and you look through the NCAA stats, both sides of the ball. Indiana, Ohio State, quarterback, offense, touchdowns, third down conversion, third down defense conversion. It's amazing how closely these teams mirror each other. As a matter of fact, the other day it unnerved me, not unnerved me, but I was just having fun with going through, and damn it, I wish I could find where I wrote all that stuff down, how close they actually were. But Indiana, defensively, everyone is thinking that Ohio State has the best defense. I'm not sold on that, because they are very good and they may be the best defense. I'm not sold that Indiana is not as good. They're just slightly different. An example is they've given up 500 more yards passing, but they've given up 1 more touchdown. Ohio State has 5 interceptions. Indiana has 15. Indiana has 1 guy alone that has 1 less interception than the entire Ohio State team. So Indiana is number 1 in takeaways. It's not. I think it's an equal. Man, this could be an amazing conference championship. So I say that on the heels of, are these games necessary anymore? It's not. Well, no, they're not necessary. Should they be played with in a conference like the Big Ten, or if it was the SEC? No, the SEC actually, they kind of need it. That's odd. But right now, the Big Ten, these teams don't need, neither of them need to play in this game.
Yeah, I think if you could take both teams and you said, look, we can just take this game off the schedule. You guys are likely to be number 1 and number 2 in the final rankings, and then you'll get the top 2 seeds. You wouldn't meet until the national championship game if that were to occur. They'd probably look at each other, and they would never admit it in public. They would say that we're competitors. We want to go out there every weekend. But if you were behind closed doors, they might look at each other and go, that sounds pretty good. If we can get those top 2 seeds locked up, don't have to suffer any more injuries, don't have to go up against the 2 best teams in the country, the kind of physical toll that takes on everybody as they're out there. But conference championship games are in a really interesting spot right now. Some of them are still vital. We're going to watch an ACC game that's going to put a team into the college football playoff probably for the first time, whoever it is that gets in. So that one's going to be electric. We talk about the potential for a Texas A&M Alabama. Alabama could very well be playing for their spot in the college football playoff, something that we know at a place like that is extremely important to them and their coaches' job security. So it's going to be interesting. Some of them hold incredible meaning. Some of them seem to now be more of a negative for the teams that are going into it. So they're going to have to figure it out. There's going to have to be some kind of conversation around it. You obviously never want it to hurt the teams, but how do you help teams using the conference championships without it hurting a couple of other teams? That's the kind of hold up there.
Yeah, and now we've seen the Big Ten introduce this. Well, I call it a crazy ass. I mean, I love the Big Ten, but let's be honest. That's a crazy ass. Nobody wants to see 24. You don't need 24 teams. I mean, there, in my opinion, James Fletcher from On3, there aren't 10 teams that can win the national championship. I don't think, personally. I think there's just a line where you can just see they don't have the quarterback play or whatever the case is. There's just a line between, where would you go? Virginia and Indiana, Virginia and Ohio State, Virginia and Alabama. There's just a line. One would think, but that's why they play the games. And some of those crossovers we'll get to see. Yeah. Georgia Tech needs that game desperately for certain. Games that are coming up. Games this weekend. There are important games this weekend, James, that are going to determine exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Mostly in the SEC. The Big Ten, their 4th team is on life support, in my opinion. I mean, they are struggling to get a 4th team in. Part of it is because they don't have the cachet of the SEC, and so the games don't appear to be as good. But then you don't know that these teams aren't better than they really are. It's just all this perception. But What are some of the games you're looking at this weekend that may turn the tide for some teams?
Well, I think the absolute biggest one is right there in the Big Ten. It's USC and Oregon. That one is going to play a vital role because, look, we can pencil in Ohio State to that Big Ten championship game, but let's be honest, they have struggled with Michigan in recent years. That's still something they have to get off their back. Even last year, they win the national title. They still weren't able to take down a down Michigan team. So you look at that game, just kind of writing pin at your own peril, Ohio State into that title game, because if they lose to Michigan, we end up in a tiebreaker scenario that would then put likely the winner of USC Oregon to that championship game against Indiana. So that's the big one that I'm watching. It's kind of the like you said, that also increases the playoff chances for whichever of those teams wins. Oregon, I think it pretty much locks them in. USC, it would give them that fighting chance right now on the outside looking in to make it.
And USC has been one of those teams that has been, I don't want to say an afterthought, but they've been like, okay, yeah, they can get in if, but they're still out there. They still have that if. Illinois does not have that if. Iowa has lost that if. As you just said, USC, the only team. Plus, they have the cachet of being USC, but they have a great offense. The Big Ten has got like 5 of the top 7 throwing quarterbacks in the country, which is amazing. When we used to consider the Big Ten the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's 3 yards is just the quarterback backing up to throw the damn ball. But yeah, it would be good for the Big Ten to get USC in, and especially if they could sneak a team in and then get a win. Wow, how big would that be for the conference? Because the perception is still this SEC is swinging big, but you know what? The teams are at the top are still from the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's for sure. And the SEC, you're going to see they're going to have a lot of their teams play in that first round. And so it's going to be interesting how many teams get through to that quarterfinal, where we know that the Big Ten likely to already have 2 comfortably sitting there. The SEC probably only going to have 1 that's there. There is a scenario, of course, that I outlined earlier where Texas Tech, would lose the Big 12 title. That could open up for that Georgia team that's sitting there as the only team in the top 4 right now that looks more likely to drop than to rise over these past last few weeks, just because they aren't going to play a championship game. They can't use that final data point that the committee is going to look at to boost their stock in this thing. I'm just so interested to see, though, how this thing gets seeded at the end, because we're going to see these conference championship losses knock teams down into that next tier of teams. And how does the committee then look at them? I really am not 100% sure what they're going to do at this point, but it's going to be fun to watch and see, do they rank the SEC teams higher than the rest? Because if you ask the SEC coaches, they don't think they're ranked high enough right now. You ask the Big Ten coaches, they probably think, hey, they're ranked way too high. Our guys deserve a little bit more love. It's all in who's looking at the data, depending on what feedback you're going to get.
Yeah, and not only that, there have been changes recently on the college football selection committee. And if I was never, and am still not really a conspiracy theorist kind of a person. That's not, but sometimes, and I use this as a great example last year when Bubba Cunningham, the AD for North Carolina, just boldly put North Carolina into the NCAA tournament when they sucked ass and didn't deserve it. Stuff happens. And not only do you have, first of all, the guy that was removed, Rhodes from Baylor, out of a job now because of all of his crap that he's had going on. This was the guy that was the chair of this committee, first of all, people. Okay. Now he's gone. They've got new people in, but the chair is an SEC AD. And I don't care what anybody says. If you think that doesn't matter, you're full of crap and you're naive and you just fell off the turnip truck. It matters because these conferences stick together. I mean, it's like if you're a NASCAR fan, it's like Chevrolet and Ford. Let me tell you, if there is a Ford driver in the lead and a Chevy driver that can challenge, I promise you a Ford driver is not going to help the Chevy guy. It's just how it is. And the SEC is not going to help the Big Ten. And the SEC is still, I think they're still pissed off last year, James, about not getting more than 3 teams in. So they're really wanting to make a bunch of noise this year.
Well, you cut me deep there with that NASCAR comparison as a Denny Hamlin fan who watched a Chevy drive into the wall and then another Chevy win the championship. That one hurt a little bit, but no, it's definitely just ripe for conspiracy theories to have Hunter Yurachek take over that spot. Obviously, we saw everyone campaigning for him to get the role. I don't think that helps the perception, even though he was likely the next in line, regardless of who campaigned or made cases for him to take over. What I think is probably most interesting about him being the pick is that his job security at Arkansas doesn't seem to be rock solid either. We went from a guy who gets wrapped up in conspiracy, gets fired midway through the season, to another guy who, if you ask Arkansas fans, they probably want him out from the Arkansas AD position as well. So I just it seems like there's just all kinds of chaos all over here. I think that committee, look, they're set up to be criticized. And I think if you go into one of those positions and you don't accept that and understand that from the day that you walk into that room, you're just being ignorant. You are in a no-win position. If you put a bunch of SEC teams in, every other conference is going to roll their eyes. If you leave SEC teams out, well, who's the most vocal conference with the most vocal media out there pumping for them? We see Paul Feinbaum on TV every week on regular ESPN in addition to the SEC network. So you're never going to win with who you put in the field. So I think that it's always in their best interest to just seed the teams the best that they can. And I think that that's generally what they try to do. Of course, here and there, you'll see some biases that you can't help but kind of squint your eyes at. But I don't know. It's such a hard job. And as someone who tries to predict what they're going to do, I do not envy them having to actually make the decisions either.
Let's give Fulton a big shout out. He's going to be doing his special Singing in the Rain with his cast and his director, Bethany Worrell. So, congratulations. He's our Special Olympian, man. He does well in the Special Olympics. And Fulton, congratulations. Good luck. You got time for a little bit more because there's a little bit more I'd love to talk about. James Fletcher from On3 Bracketology is with us, and we're talking CFP right now and all the different scenarios, Cereos and Cheerios and all kinds of O's. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Back Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this. We're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving. Got some pumpkins all up and around in the studio, looks like. Not really, but pretending. Man, all I think about with Thanksgiving is more football, man. And we've got tons of that coming up this weekend with some big games that James Fletcher from On3 we've talked about, especially in the SEC, but the Big Ten has an important game with USC as they are fighting for their playoff life as well. Another strange scenario is Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. This coaching carousel where there are so many coaching openings, he's just going to be geared towards mainly probably one. Probably it's either LSU or nothing for Lane Kiffin. I think that with John Daggone from Tulane already having turned that job down, that means to me that Lane Kiffin has probably made it known through back channels that not interested in going to Florida for some reason. And since he hasn't shut it down, he's either waiting for one hell of a pay raise or he's going to go to LSU, in my opinion.
Man, I don't know if I would rule out Florida yet. I think that people around Florida that you talk to, they still think that it's being pushed for pretty hard. People at LSU pushing pretty hard for Lane Kiffin as well. I just don't know if anyone who tells you that they know what Lane Kiffin is going to do can say that with any amount of confidence. Because
that's probably the factual thing, the biggest factual thing that's said today.
I genuinely don't think that he knows yet. I think that you look at the history of Lane Kiffin, you look at more recent history, and you talk to people who are kind of have been around him in the past, as I have done. I've never gotten the chance to speak with him in person, talk to him on the teleconferences, the media day stuff, all that, but never spent real time around him. So I've talked to people who have. And what they consistently tell you is that Lane is the type of guy who will go to bed feeling absolutely confident that he's taking the Florida job. And he will wake up and think, man, I love it in Oxford. I can't leave this place. And then the next day he'll go, yeah, LSU, they've got everything lined up for me. And then he'll come back home and be like, but Florida, that's Steve Spurrier's place. You know, that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting, is that it is truly a day-to-day thing. When you see these, oh, he's leaning Florida, oh, he's leaning LSU, he's leaning towards staying. I think that might be coming in real time, but I don't think that it's ultimately going to have a bearing on what he decides to do at the finish line. I think that it's truly one of the most difficult decisions we've ever seen on the coaching carousel. The kind of legacy that he can just cement at Ole Miss if he stays versus chasing the legacy that he's dreamed of his entire life. How do you fault a guy no matter what he chooses? But of course, you're also going to become a villain no matter what you choose to do at this point. He doesn't have the luxury of just being the good guy in this story.
And part of what makes this so difficult is the timing of the college football playoffs. If this were just a bowl game, who cares? It's a bowl game. It's not. But that begs the question: what can he do at Florida that he can't do at Ole Miss?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting
LSU for that matter. Right. Although I will say, I've not been to a game at Ole Miss, but knowing LSU is regarded as the nighttime football experience in the country.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin has said as much in his own press conferences at Ole Miss throughout the time that LSU gets the preferential kickoff times in the SEC. That's well known. They get their night kickoffs when they're at home. So if you're Lane Kiffin, I think you're basically weighing, do I go chase a slightly easier path in terms of historical prestige, in terms of total resources that I'm going to be given, all of those things, or do I stay somewhere where I have a little bit more cushion in my pursuit of that? At Ole Miss, if he goes 8-4 next year, they're going to be frustrated, but he's not getting fired. We just saw what happens when you lose 3 times at LSU and don't have a national title under your belt over the past couple of seasons. Brian Kelly got fired. Ed Orgeron was fired shortly after a national championship there. So that is a job that is.
You talk about my man.
You win it all. Yeah, you win it all, or you're gone.
I'm back and coach.
Yeah, and reports from around the country that LSU would even let Ed Orgeron come back to the staff as an assistant if Lane Kiffin were to take the job. That's how hard they're pursuing this guy.
They would let Les Miles and Ed Orgeron be assistants if they could get Lane Kiffin. I'm going to have you jump out and rejoin us. There's maybe a connection issue. I don't know if it's your mic or if it's the connection issue, but if you could just jump out and rejoin us real quick. But yeah, I believe that, buddy. The governor themselves would say, hey man, you can have whoever you want as an assistant. You want Les Miles? You want Ed Orgeron? Oh, Ed Orgeron. He said, all right, I'll come in, man. Just hey, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do, man? We win another national championship. But yeah, I think that they would do pretty much whatever. It's Louisiana, man. They're never too shy about. I was just saying, while you were gone, I was like, yeah, LSU's not exactly shy about doing whatever needs to be done. I think we've seen from the governor appearing on things like with Pat McAfee, and how many governors do we see on on a show like that where he's talking about how, oh no, he's not gonna be making the next election now. Here, we gonna get us a new coach. We're gonna get us a coach. The coach is gonna win now. We're gonna win. That seems a little rough to be the next coach coming in, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of setting up for there when we had the connection issues was, man, if you're Lane Kiffin, do you add that much stress to your life when you just released a whole documentary on how you found this peace that you found through yoga and living in Oxford, having your family back around you, all the comfort and peace you have in your life? Do you really want to go somewhere where 3 weeks into the season, they're already going to be rumbling about how much they're paying you, about who they put on your staff, about how close can you get to a national championship? That's why I think that Florida is not out of this at all. The history of him idolizing Steve Spurrier to honestly just how down Florida has been in the last couple of years, you would have to think that while the expectations, yes, I think are higher and a little bit more cutthroat than Ole Miss, that they would give him a little bit more time given what they're coming off of the past couple of coaches, at least that they've had, thinking, well, look, we got the guy that we believe is the home run hire. Let's give him a little bit of time here. Let's understand that our program was headed in the wrong direction for quite a while. I think it's so interesting that we're having this conversation, though, given Curt Cignetti doing just about the opposite of what Lane Kiffin did and shutting all these things down immediately, signing that extension day one, the second his name got brought into these rumors.
Yeah, and it's Lane Kiffin-esque for one thing, which is not a problem because I think that he probably handles that stuff easier than a lot of guys because he plays with the social media. He likes to have fun with it, where most guys are not, they're not really doing it that much, but it's probably something that he's seriously considering. He's been at Ole Miss for what, 5 years now, at least.
I think at least 5 years. I think it's been longer than that, actually.
It might have been. My daughter would probably cry if he leaves, being a recent grad and currently in grad school there. But yeah, I get back to what about the college football playoffs? What happens because he can't wait. That's another thing. Because of the timing, you can't wait that long. If he were to leave, what would you do to Ole Miss? Is this akin to Florida State losing their quarterback a few years ago?
Man, I think it's interesting to look at because we have the precedent that Florida State kind of got just booted out because they didn't have a quarterback. But with Ole Miss, I think that the committee has almost kind of pigeonholed themselves into what you can't drop Ole Miss. You've got them way too high up. You've already seeded these one-loss teams. You've made it clear that you're doing that based on how many wins and losses each team ends with. They're not going to go to the SEC title game. So you're not going to have that to lean on that, oh, they added another loss to their resume. You're looking at a team that's going to probably finish 6th in the rankings. And yeah, you could drop them down, but are you going to be able to drop them 5 spots just based on their coach? Which then leaves you with the question, if you're Ole Miss, if Lane is gone, what do we do? Pete Golding and Charlie Weiss, the 2 coordinators there, neither of them with any head coaching experience. I don't know. I think you almost have to try to make a hire before the college football playoff and get that new staff to immediately integrate there, which is something almost unprecedented in college football to try to do. And we're seeing a similar situation with John Summerall at Tulane and the kind of next up candidate for a lot of these jobs when his Tulane team is now slotted to be in the playoff. And don't forget that the coaches are the ones who put this transfer portal where it is. They are the ones who created this problem for themselves.
Some of them don't like it, but the only guys that aren't going to like it are the guys that are still playing.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I think was so interesting about that decision is that you've heard coaches argue, why are we putting it here? And it's just another decision by the NCAA. And yes, the coaches have had some input in this and some of the other decisions where you're clearly chasing an easier job. You look at your job and you say, man, it is so hard, the grind of having to deal with the portal and recruiting and prep for a bowl game. I just want to push it back. And then you push it back and you say, uh-oh, look where it landed. And so they're going to have to keep adapting this. They're going to have to keep tweaking these rules because it feels like with the NCAA in particular, and these coaches do it as well, they're just trying to get some pressure off of their plate, something off of their table in the short term. And it ends up having these consequences that they then have to deal with a year or two down the line.
Yeah, and it's just going to be fun as the season itself continues to be incredible. Last year was the best in college football, and this year has been just as good with teams that you just don't know who's going to win it. And I'm looking forward to this playoff once we get there, but we've got plenty more to come along. James Fletcher from On 3 with me. And James, I look forward to having you back on as we get a little closer and determine exactly who, what, when, and where.
Yep. Great to be on. Enjoyed talking. Thanks.
You betcha. Make sure you are a subscriber to the On3, Hoosier.com. You can catch great information from people like James Fletcher and the myriad of great national writers at On3. We've got plenty more coming up. We're going to hear from Zach Osterman, from Alec Lasley, from the Hoosier.com. We're going to hear from Darren DeVries, Tucker DeVries, and Sam Alexis as the Hoosiers' kind of sleepy performance last night on the basketball court. Yeah, second in a row. Cause for concern a little bit, but because of who it was against, yeah, well, maybe not. But lots more coming up. Back with it right after these messages.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Glad to have you along for the ride as we head into another fun sports weekend. Indiana basketball played last night, so they're going to be off for a few days. Indiana football with an off week, so they're off until next Friday night as they will travel to West Lafayette to take on the Purdue Boilermakers to potentially end their season at 12-0, a historical season. And it will is expected to be just that. Can it go to 13-0 and then more? Who knows? Katie bars the door. Last night, Indiana basketball had another sleepy performance. Zach Osterman, the IU insider for the Indy Star. All right, what do we got on today, Zach? I've got to see this.
It's just a Blackhawks sweatshirt.
Oh, Blackhawks. There we go. That looks like that would be very warm in Chicago. I can promise you. And looks like something I could have used a couple of weeks ago there.
I think I bought it because I was in Chicago for a trip and it was underdressed. So
that will certainly prompt one to do that. Indiana basketball on the floor last night, Zach. A sleepy performance, their second in a row, and I know some people are kind of ringing bells, but I'm like, it's hard for a lot of people to get revved up for a 6:00 Wednesday game or Thursday game during the week. And although you cannot excuse not being ready to play, I know that I'm not sure that this team is that's going to be their MO.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some things you can draw from a game like that are concerning. The rebounding is just going to be an issue all year long. I think we could tell that even in Puerto Rico. And if it's a problem clearing the defensive boards against Lindenwood, then it's going to be a bigger problem doing it against, Big Ten teams. And I know, we heard from Sam Alexis and Tucker DeVries last night that, we just got to be tougher. We'll get it fixed. And I'm sure they will be better. But in the same breath, I mean, this team's played what now? 5 regular season games in addition to 5 preseason games. It's not like they haven't. It's not like this. It's not like this wasn't a point of emphasis before, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So there are some things that are concerning. I think you can count on Lamar Wilkerson to shoot better than what was he? I think 4 of 17 from behind the 3-point line, especially at home last night. In general, I think that this team is probably going to go through some offensive malaise at times this year. Like, I think that's just something that's going to happen when you have a team built around 3-point shooting. The reality is that you're going to get a little bit. You're going to live on the more extreme ends of the variance spectrum sometimes. Like, there are going to be nights when the shots just don't go in, and it's going to look like we're talking about here, a lot worse than if Indiana had made 3 more threes last night, they would still only been 12 of 28. That's about 40%. Like that's about where I think this team's going to wind up shooting for the season more widely. And if they'd made 3 more threes, they would have won the game 82-53, and nothing about it seems particularly sort of noteworthy. So, your point, I think, is valid too about the start time and the crowd and the energy in the building and all that. I would worry a little bit about fatigue. And this is not necessarily something that's going to hit right now, but like this team's clock did start, a lot earlier than what is normal because of the preseason tour. They were practicing and playing games in the summer. And, you're in these games now where like Tate and Conaway is playing 28 minutes, Lamar Wilkerson 32, Tucker DeVries 35. I think a weekend off before the Kansas State game would really help this team. But it's kind of one of those where you're trying to figure out what matters here and what doesn't. And I suspect that there are going to be elements of this that we'll look back on and say, well, that was a bit concerning. But I think there's also going to be elements of some of these games that just aren't going to matter very much in February, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like this is something that we haven't seen before from other teams. So I just, that's again, having seen the guys play and understanding how they play, it's not something that I think is going to be an issue. And I think that something that Darren DeVries said kind of rung home that, if Lamar Wilkerson's having a 4 for 17 night, then, or 4 for 24 night, whatever it was, and then he says that means he's got a 17 for 24 night coming. So I'm not concerned about it. it's going to happen. You just hope it happens in the games where it's more difficult to get other parts of your game to be superior against the opponent. A game against Linwood or any of these Alabama A&M and sort of you can, I don't want to say sleepwalk through them from a shooting perspective and still win. You're not going to be able to do that against Kansas State, against Louisville, against Kentucky. So that's what you want to make sure that the Pistons are firing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think that Kansas State game is going to be a fascinating test. I mean, Kansas State's already beaten a couple of high major teams. I mean, not necessarily good high major teams. They beat Cal at home in a shootout, and then they buried Mississippi State last night. Now, Mississippi State, I suspect, is not very good this year. They've not looked particularly good this year, but still, I mean, Kansas State's numbers this season in terms of scoring 93, 98, 99, 84, 98. Like Kansas State has been putting up big numbers. They are incredibly efficient offensively. I think that is going to be a very sort of real test. I mean, that's at least right now, Wildcats are a top 50 team in KenPom. So I think that game suddenly becomes more of a barometer of where this team is, especially because, and I don't think you take things too much away from Indiana, but that Marquette win is fading a little bit. Marquette is just really struggling right now. They've lost to Maryland. They've lost to Dayton at home.
I've said it several times. I think Milwaukee is a better team than Marquette.
Yeah, I mean, maybe right now at least. But the point is, I think that the Kansas State game is going to be maybe more of a barometer than what we thought it might be when Indiana threw it on the schedule, because I think Kansas State might wind up being a little bit better than what we expected this season, especially offensively. I think it could be a game that frankly provides some fireworks when you look at the pace these two teams play at. And if you're Indiana, it is maybe a little bit of a test of, hey, you've kind of had a couple sleepy performances here, against Incarnate Word. It was kind of the second half defensive lull. Against Lindenwood, it was the rebounding effort. Against both teams, frankly, it was an offense that just couldn't quite find its way out of second gear for any sustained stretch of time. But this is the kind of game, if you're Indiana, you need to be winning it, but you need to be expecting a bit of a test too. And I think there's some ways in which Indiana can kind of take advantage of Kansas State. But there are some ways I suspect Kansas State is really going to stress test Indiana as well. And it's going to be, it's going to be, especially because Indiana gets the weekend off to kind of rest and prepare and maybe recover a little bit. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what it looks like next Tuesday.
Zach Osterman, the Indy Insider, or the IU Insider for the Indy Star, rather, with us as he is each Friday. Zach, something probably not a lot of people are paying attention to, but is really a big event behind the scenes with the Big Ten, is the potential of the Big Ten, in essence, selling part of itself to a private equity firm. That would be a first for a conference, but I think that this is a step in the wrong direction. The University of Maryland's Board of Regents has come out publicly and denounced this as anything good for the league. I think it's
Michigan has, not Maryland.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Maryland.
But it's just, honestly, it's important. Just because, there's a lot of,
they swing a bigger weight. Yes.
Yeah. So
and is it USC, the West Coast team, or UCLA? I can't remember. I think it's USC.
It's USC. Yes.
Yeah. So and this is the Big Ten's attempted infusing a bunch of cash, a couple of $1 billion into the league. But are you selling your soul to do that? And does the Big Ten need to do that right now?
Yeah, so there is a lot to kind of there's a lot to unpack with this private capital deal.
And I don't expect you to bring.
No, I mean, there's every conference has explored this, at least at some level. Even the ones that have said, "Oh, our ADs don't want it," or "Our presidents don't want it." Like no one out there hasn't explored this, because costs are going to keep rising, and frankly, for a lot of schools, television revenues are not. The Big Ten will, the SEC will, everybody else is staring at a very uncertain financial future. Not that like all the money's going to go away, but that after so many years of sort of college sports as this media rights boomtown, that is slowing down considerably. And we can have a separate philosophical conversation about whether people should have been more responsible and should have built out more of sort of a rainy day fund, because like 10 years ago when the O'Bannon lawsuit sort of concluded, you could tell where the idea of player compensation and amateurism was going, and college athletics just kind of buried its head in the sand and kept spending and spending. But what you have now is schools that still have, millions of pounds of debt service and a bottom line that is going to just keep getting tighter and tighter. I think people are going to be surprised next year when they find out how many athletics departments in even like the richest conferences are underwater financially. So the point is, everyone's explored this. The Big Ten moved ahead with it at a level that other conferences have not. There have been objections from Michigan, which is one of the schools that, as you say, swings a heavy bat, but also maybe is sort of least in need of this kind of capital infusion. Worth saying there's also probably some political sort of complications there. I don't think Michigan was very pleased with the way Tony Petitti and the conference office kind of conducted the conference's response to the Connor Stallions situation and the science stealing scandal. And I'm not picking a side on that. The point is, I think there are some unmended fences there that may be playing into this as well. I don't want to oversimplify it. My impression is that USC just feels like it's not comfortable entering into this arrangement unless it gets more money.
Which is ironic since they're getting a full Big Ten share right off the bat of joining the conference when
basically everybody else that's come in, has had to stagger their way up.
And they haven't done jack squat, to be honest with you, on football or basketball.
Well, so the Big Ten is quick to call this private capital, not private equity. And they argue that the difference is that there's no debt incurred and there's no payback obligation. So this is the University of California pension system retirement fund. I'm not sure exactly how it phrases itself. This is the investment arm of that fund. So this is the arm that's taking money out of that fund and investing it to grow that fund for the future. It's called UC Investments, and what's proposed is that they buy a 10% stake in what the Big Ten will form as an organization called Big Ten Enterprises, where the Big Ten will funnel all of its revenues, television revenues, bowl revenues, CFP revenues, everything through Big Ten Enterprises. The idea being even that the Big Ten will start negotiating commercial and marketing sponsorships on behalf of all 18 schools together. The belief that if you bundle that if each of those schools, negotiates its own individual deals, then the power of those individual brands will not be as great as the amount of money that the Big Ten would be able to get from, like Coca-Cola. If the Big Ten says, we are now going to make Coca-Cola the official drink of all 18 Big Ten schools, then Coke will give the Big Ten enough money that everyone will get more than if they negotiated their own beverage rights individually.
Kind of like Notre Dame and NBC.
Yeah, I mean, very similar. I mean, honestly, like the best comparison, and this is kind of a little bit of a nuanced history lesson, but in the 60s, 70s, 80s, the NCAA controlled television rights access to all college football. And the NCAA negotiated on behalf of literally all of its members how many games were going on TV, where they would be broadcast, et cetera, and all that money was spread evenly. In 1984, a bunch of the big schools got took the NCAA all the way to the Supreme Court, and basically the Supreme Court ruled in the Regents versus Board of Trustees of the University of Oklahoma that the NCAA's control of football TV rights was a monopolistic practice and broke it up. But what happened in the years immediately following that was the individual schools and conferences lost money on TV revenue because they found that it was harder to negotiate individually rather than as one monolithic entity that the TV companies had no choice but to deal with, essentially. And that's kind of what the Big Ten is arguing with Big Ten Enterprises, that if the Big Ten as a whole funnels all of this money and all this commercial activity and partnership and sponsorship through one unified, bundled organization, it will make more money on those partnerships and sponsorships and commercial deals for all of its conference members than if they negotiated them individually. So if you think about it a certain way, the UC Investments deal is $2.4 billion in upfront capital for a 10% stake in Big Ten Enterprises. So that's the Big Ten essentially valuing Big Ten Enterprises at $24 billion. So basically the conference at $24 billion. And there would be an uneven split of the rest of the money. I think it's like 5.5% to Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, 5% to Oregon and USC, and 4.9% to everyone else. There are a variety of objections to this. I think it's fair to say the majority of conference members want it, but I think at this point I don't know if it's on life support, but I think it is certainly coming untracked. This week, UC Investments released a statement basically saying we're not really comfortable entering into this arrangement if the Big Ten is not sort of like, if the Big Ten's not prepared to approve it unanimously, if the Big Ten is not sort of united in its support of this deal, we're not sure we want to enter into it, which makes sense. I mean, if you were that fund, you're saying, listen, this is $2.4 billion. We can't have uncertainty. We don't want to buy an equity stake in the conference that winds up being, part of the reason or the triggering factor in somehow breaking apart the conference, because then that's a bad investment on our end as much as anything else. So the point is that, there's a lot more that we could get into, but that's kind of where things stand. And at least people I have talked to feel that no one's used the word dead to me with the private capital deal, but certainly there is, I would say, substantially less optimism that it's going to get passed, that it's going to get approved, and the partnership will actually come to pass than what was probably the case a week ago.
And we have not heard much, if anything, from Indiana's take on this. And actually, we haven't heard much from anybody else's take in the conference on it besides Michigan and USC expressing their concerns with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, the rest of the conference has generally kind of tried to hang fire on a lot of this. And the legitimate concerns I think that Michigan in particular might hold is that one of the arms of this agreement is a 10-year extension of the grant of rights for all Big Ten schools. So anyone who's followed kind of the drama in the ACC will know a grant of rights is like a legally binding structure that grants, it does what it says, it grants the Big Ten the authority to essentially bundle the individual sort of rights, broadcast rights, commercial rights, whatever, of all of its schools together and then represent them on their behalf. What that does is it essentially is signing over branding rights to the Big Ten, which means it is the structure most directly holding a conference together. And anyone, again, who followed the drama in the ACC will know the ACC's grant of rights goes through, I think, 2036. Clemson and FSU have been exploring ways to try and get out of it. That was resolved this past year when the ACC created a staggered television payment plan. It is perhaps worth pointing out that this would usher in a world of uneven revenue distribution in the Big Ten as well, which has long been something the conference has resisted. But there is sort of this is, I think, the Big Ten trying to create a sort of bulwark against losing schools to a potential super conference. But a school like Michigan has the money and the political sway to say, well, we don't we don't necessarily need to sign that grant of rights. If we don't believe this deal is good for Michigan, what's our incentive to locking ourselves into the Big Ten for another 10 years? And I don't think the Big Ten's going to break up tomorrow. Like this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Like because for a while today, like November 21st was being sort of floated as the day that the Big Ten might potentially vote on this. And it was widely reported that the Big Ten was even prepared to vote without Michigan and USC and sort of say, we're going to approve this deal across the rest of the conference. And if at a later date you would like to join on, then we will bring you, sort of into the fold. I don't believe that's happening today, but it does speak to the wider idea that, when you see something like a conference breaking up, it does not happen overnight. There's not one precipitating nuclear event that just fractures the whole thing forever. It is sort of a steady erosion of the foundation that's sort of holding everything up. And I think there's a fear, and I suspect it's a justifiable one, although reasonable minds can disagree, that this deal and the feeling in particular that the Big Ten would kind of have to force this deal down the throat of some of its members would feel like one of those precipitating moments. And so that is, I think, why UC Investments sort of hit pause on the deal. Again, the idea being if for no reason other than simply because, they do not have a debt obligation from this, per my understanding. They are only getting a 10% return on whatever annual revenue Big Ten Enterprises makes. That's the Big Ten's argument for it being private capital, not private equity. The Big Ten doesn't owe a fixed amount to UC Investments no matter what happens to the Big Ten's finances. It's not like, the bank saying, well, we don't care that you made less money this year, you still owe the same amount on your mortgage. It is UC Investments saying we will take a 10% share annually for at least the next 15 years of Big Ten revenues, because we believe that in the long term, that will be more money than the $2.4 billion we're putting in up front, that will get return on investment. But if you're UC Enterprises, you don't want to create you don't want to be part of creating the environment or the, sort of the helping sort of contribute to the idea of fracturing the Big Ten, because then your investment becomes less valuable. So, this is all stuff that, like, I know people, want to, I know people are really fatigued by all this, and I totally understand why. And you start talking to people about it, and they just kind of, after a while, I think they roll their eyes, because, you're a fan, you just want to watch sports. You just want to watch the game on Saturday or Tuesday or, whatever, or the soccer game on Sunday, whatever. There is like a deeply philosophical conversation to have about a lot of this, because people don't want, in particular, college athletics to feel like a business. And I understand why.
Too late, unfortunately.
Well, but it's hard because, for example, you say you don't want college sports to behave like a business, and it doesn't, because if it did, it would only sponsor 2 sports, because only 2 sports make money. But in the same breath, how thrilled were Indiana fans when, across the course of the last 24 months, Indiana, increased Curt Cignetti's annual salary like 4-fold, 3-fold, 4-fold. How angry are Ole Miss fans going to be if Lane Kiffin leaves for more money at LSU or Florida? You don't want it to be a business, except when you do, but it can't be. It can't be both without some significant financial complications. And I'm not necessarily endorsing the idea of, private capital in college sports, but, the money has to be real at some point. It can't just be, you have to pay the bills somewhere, somehow. And if you can't, you have to make some difficult decisions. And that's when, you start wanting college sports to behave more like a business, and it's complex. But listen, I mean, these are just the problems of our time. We have been having this conversation in different ways, and there have been, so many cries of wolf throughout college athletics history. This is an incredibly complicated time, and there are going to be some things that emerge from this that I think people won't like very much. And when I say this, I just mean this era in college athletics. But I don't think it's going away, and I don't think the things that make it popular are ultimately going away either. And I think people will figure it out.
I agree. There's nothing we can do about it other than deal with it. Indiana football off this weekend with an off week, of course, as they all take on Purdue next Friday evening, looking for a 12-0 undefeated regular season for the first time in program history. The basketball team off until this coming Tuesday when they will host Kansas State. Zach, you have an open weekend.
There's still some big stuff going on campus. I don't know if I'll be allowed by domestic responsibilities to get out, but obviously soccer's got an NCAA tournament game on Sunday against St. Louis. Volleyball's hosting number 1 Nebraska, a team that's only lost one set all year, not match, set. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the get-in price for that game was over $350 last time I checked. So yeah, go to StubHub. Go to StubHub and look up the tickets for IU Nebraska at Wilkinson Hall on Saturday night.
Wow.
Yep. Penn State football get-in price is like $2 this weekend. And IU Nebraska volleyball is, and I mean, that a lot of that is reflective of obviously Nebraska. But it is a big moment for Indiana. I mean, if
Indiana set a program record.
Yeah, Indiana's like ranked. Indiana's going to the NCAA tournament. Indiana's got a really good chance at hosting games in the NCAA tournament. Like, this is almost certainly the best regular season, at least, maybe the best season, full stop, in Indiana volleyball history. I don't want to minimize any of that when I say if Indiana beats Nebraska on Saturday night, if Indiana even gets Nebraska to 5 sets on Saturday night, it will be one of the most remarkable results of the fall sports calendar across all of Division I college athletics. Like, Nebraska volleyball is dominant right now at a level that is almost kind of hard to comprehend. Like, again, they have lost one set all season, like not match, set. They have swept everyone they have played except for one team that beat them one time. And they won that match 3-1. If Indiana even gets it to 5 sets this Saturday, it would be hugely impressive. If Indiana won, it would be the biggest upset win in the history of this athletics department. And that's not reflective of Indiana. That's reflective of just how dominant Nebraska is right now. Like, this is, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but like, this is something akin to like the Soviet hockey team in 1980. Like, that's what Nebraska volleyball is doing this season. And so, if you have $350, feel free to turn out for that match. It's going to be a big one. And then soccer on Sunday. I mean, it's the beat don't stop, but I think it is certainly for IU football. I think it's a really well-timed bye. You could tell, I think, in that Wisconsin game, players look tired. There are multiple players clearly playing through injuries. There are players Indiana wants to get back. Sounds like Elijah Surratt is getting closer and closer, As of last weekend, I expected him to play in the Purdue game. We'll see kind of what things look like building up to next Friday night. And then with IU basketball, frankly, again, as we talked about earlier, this Kansas State game suddenly looks a little bit more kind of serious than it did, maybe at the beginning of the season, maybe when it came onto the schedule. And so if you're Indiana, having that extra prep time really can't hurt.
Absolutely not. Zach Osterman from the Indy Stars. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you as always. I hope that you get some rest in this weekend.
I'll do my best. You too, Jim.
Appreciate you, brother. Zach Osterman joining us here on this Friday. We've got more coming up. Back with Alec Lasley after this.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app.
The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's C-O-Y-L-E, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Kind of wanted a loud gym, right? Really loud, really juiced up gym. When you've got guys that kind of say like, okay, we're flat, is that surprising? Is that alarming to you? Just kind of how do you respond to that?
Yeah, a little bit. Especially I thought the last couple of days of practice, our guys, I thought they really learned from some of the things that happened in our last game. I thought they responded really well in practice from an energy level. Here's some of the things we got to fix. And they were playing hard tonight. It just wasn't the same juice. And again, part of it, maybe when the offense isn't flowing, they got to learn how to fight through that. These are all things early in the year that as you're getting going, you learn how to win games in a lot of different ways. And that's an important thing to have and a quality to have. And I thought they did a nice job tonight defensively again in the first half, holding them to 17%. That's back-to-back games in the first half. Our defense was really good. The start of the second halves in both these games, it wasn't quite as good. But I did think our defense, again, was what changed the game around in the second half. So we were able to get that lead pushed back out. And a lot of that was because our defensive intensity just picked up.
Did you see a difference in maybe the talking about the defense in the response to some of the offensive malaise that kind of hit and then it drifted away? But basically, did you see your team play through that defensively without seeing shots go in maybe a little bit better tonight?
I think for the most part, yeah. There were still a couple stretches, where we had some empty possessions that maybe. We're at our best when we're able to get into the ball and apply pressure and disrupt. And I thought in the middle of the second half, or whatever, 15, 14 minutes to go there, I thought the lineup change came in and they did a really nice job of coming in and picking up full and disrupting their catches on the wings and then our 4s and 5s and Sam was great really all night. I thought he just had a really good game and was a big factor in getting that lead pushed back up for us.
Yeah, Coach, if you would expand a little on Sam Alexis and just sort of what he's bringing, what do you like, and sort of what are his opportunities here as you get further in the season?
Yeah, I love what Sam's doing. He's bringing that the physicality, but even more so is the rebounding, the energy level, the enthusiasm. I just like what he's doing for us right now, and he's going to play a huge role for us all year, like he already is. But I just like what he's doing. I think he's getting better and better every day too. He's getting more and more comfortable on the offensive end, the defensive end. He's really doing a nice job of coming in and cleaning up, from the backside. I think he had 4 blocks again today. So that's that type of rim protection we're going to need from him, and he's doing a great job with it.
Yeah, well, Lamar, he kind of breathed a sigh of relief after he hit the last one, a couple off shooting nights. What do you tell him, or do you just let, like you said, shoot or shoot, you kind of let him go through it and just kind of shoot through it?
Yeah, I mean, if he was 4 for 17 tonight, that means there's an 11 for 17 coming soon. So he's, he can let him rip whenever he wants. It's like we've always tell our guys, like basketball's basketball. You have, the best players in the world have off nights, and he had an off shooting night. That means you got a good one coming. So it's always about, let's make sure we got the win even on those nights. So he's gonna have plenty of good nights too.
That's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned that Coach DeVries had said this. It has to be a tremendous free feeling as a player to be out there and know that not only do you have a green light to shoot the ball, you're not going to get jerked out of the game for missing a shot, that you get to play through not just mistakes, but if it just like Lamar, the shot just not going down, man. What are you going to do? Put him on the bench? No, you got to let shooters shoot. Like Coach Darren DeVries said, sometimes they're just not going to go in, guys. Doesn't matter. We see it all the time. Happens to everybody. Happens to Steph Curry. Happens to anybody. But as I mentioned earlier, what you really hope then is those nights that Darren DeVries just alluded to, the big nights, the big shooting nights, you hope they come in the big games. Louisville, Kentucky coming up. I just keep imagining what it would be like for this team to go down to Rupp Arena and knock off Kentucky in this first game back in this series. I'm sorry, I can't keep thinking about it. I know they've got a big game with Kansas State coming up. They've got a big game with Louisville coming up on the day of the Big Ten championship. But that Kentucky game, I can't get it out of my mind. Mercy. Also last night, Tucker DeVries and Sam Alexis spoke to the media as well.
Obviously, you're 5-0, you're winning, but the rebounding tonight, when you look at that number, just give us a player's perspective. What are things that maybe can help make that less of a concern going forward?
Just attacking practice every day. We do the drills, like the pad drill we do every day in practice, just taking that more serious every time we step on the court. So
we just got to play harder, to be honest. It's been emphasis in practice, and we'll get it fixed.
You mentioned playing harder. Did you feel energy was an issue kind of in the first half or anything like that? And where do you kind of think, not playing hard enough, what's the issue there?
For sure. I think it's pretty obvious we were a little flat. And then I thought Sam, again, saved the day today, not only with, what he produced on the court, but his energy, his enthusiasm gets everybody going. And even the crowd got into it a little more in the second half. I thought in the first half it was, just dead kind of all around. It was important for our team to bring the energy, and coming out when he came in for the first time in the second half, he really brought it and changed the game again.
Alec Lasley will join us when we come back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. More coming to you right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, and Alec Lasley joining. Have you started to make the pumpkin pie, and do you have the all the fixins ready to deep fry your turkey outside and blow the damn thing up like everybody else does?
So I'm not a pumpkin pie person.
Not a pumpkin pie. I'm not a pumpkin pie person.
I stick to apple pie. So
Hey, I love. Ain't nothing wrong with some apple pie. A little cinnamon on there. Yeah, like it.
Yeah, so
like it a lot.
that's more the route that I go. But slowly getting ready. Seems like every year Thanksgiving kind of comes up out of nowhere, and this year I feel like it jumped in front of us even quicker. So always exciting, always good though.
You know what? It comes around every year. I don't know why people are so surprised that I can't believe it's October. I can't believe it's New Year's Eve. Why not? It happened the exact same time 1 year ago. That's what I like to say, just to be that guy howling at the moon, just to be a comedian. Something not quite funny for Indiana football, with all that's going great for them. They lose their 2026 quarterback commitment, who was a pretty good player, although from way out in San Diego. I find it ironic that that you decommit from a team that is about to potentially produce a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and you're going to decommit from that school when they don't have a for sure heir apparent. I'm not sold that Alberto is ready to be the guy that Fernando is yet. I think he might be yet another year away. I don't know. But Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously Cash Herrera was
that's enough. That's all we need to hear. No, I'm kidding.
Cash Herrera was committed to Iowa before, decommitted, then committed to Indiana, right? So he's, had a couple different bumps along the way. That this was not a surprise to Indiana. I think it was more of a mutual agreement to part ways. Look, I mean, Indiana is not going to just take someone to take someone. I think there's a little bit more potential excitement about what Tyler Cherry has been able to do recovering from his leg injury this past year. So he's, as of now, right, things can change before the spring practice kind of rolls around, but the expectation is he'll at least be back on the field. Not that he's going to play any significant role in the quarterback kind of hierarchy there, because he still has a long way to get back to actually playing. But obviously, the talent that he has, Alberto's there. The expectation is Indiana is going to grab another very, very talented portal quarterback. And based off of what you've seen with Curtis Rourke, based off of what you've seen with now, obviously, Fernando Mendoza, you go from
Sam Levitt.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll see. Obviously, there's tons of stuff about him out there, but you go from getting a guy who's coming off of an ACL injury at Ohio and put him in the top 10 in the Heisman voting. You make a college football playoff. You bring Fernando Mendoza, who is still very talented before, but rework kind of parts of his game to turn him into not just the Heisman frontrunner at this point, but potentially the number 1 overall draft pick. And that's significant when you take someone from a high major level and put them on another high major team. The development there, and now it's not just the track record that this coaching staff has with obviously Mike Shanahan and Kurt Cignetti, not just the track record that they bring from James Madison. Now they've done it 2 years in a row at the high major Big Ten level with Curtis Rourke getting drafted, and then obviously Fernando Mendoza expected to go in the top couple of picks here in the upcoming NFL draft. So I don't anticipate Alberto being the guy come next fall. And I think Indiana saw that they, still had the ability to maybe coming into this year keep Fernando for 2 years, but after that, they've now seen that that's definitely not going to happen. And so they're going to go out and get a high level guy. And it's about, you hear the quote about, right, obviously not rebuilding, just retooling and stuff like that. And
Reloading.
Yeah, and that's what Indiana is going to be doing once again. And I expect multiple quarterbacks to be reaching out to Indiana, not the other way around. And I think Indiana is going to have any sort of pick that they want going into the summer here, or going into the fall, and then obviously throughout the rest of the winter, what that quarterback position would look like.
Yeah, I think that's something that Indiana could theoretically do year after year, because Kurt Cignetti is probably going to have his choice within reason. You've got to consider the money side of things, but man, Sam Leavitt, the Arizona State quarterback, Jason agrees with me. He's going to be in the wind, and Kurt Cignetti has this track record, and it started before he got to Indiana. He ask him, he'll tell you. He has produced a lot of great quarterbacks through the years. Not any that you have heard of, probably, but it doesn't matter. They worked within his system, and he's had done a masterful job of taking different quarterbacks and getting them to work in his system, actually allowing them to thrive in his system, which in a turn allows his system to thrive.
No, absolutely. Look, I mean, it's a very mutual beneficial relationship between, what Kurt Cignetti's been able to do with his quarterbacks, and then vice versa. And I think, the bigger question is who are the pieces that Indiana is going to be returning, right? More so than what high level quarterback are they going to be able to get. You have, Elijah Stratt, not coming back. We'll see with the expectation, right? As of now, we'll see if Omar Cooper decides to return. He still has eligibility. You obviously lose Riley Nowakowski. You lose some key pieces.
How big
on the
would that be?
Line.
Getting a guy like Omar Cooper back.
Yeah, and you lose some key pieces on the offensive line. You obviously lose your top two running backs. The expectation there is you're going to reload with a big transfer portal running back as well. You get Lee Beebe, who's going to be back coming off the knee injury, but how truly explosive is he going to be? But the expectation right then is Kobe Martin steps up and takes on a much larger role, which I think everyone is excited about from that standpoint. But I think it's more so who's the quarterback going to be throwing the ball to, and what are those pieces around that offense going to be, more so than is Indiana going to be able to get a high level quarterback. I think that's the expectation. And it's more so the question marks around who that quarterback will be. But, Mike Shanahan, obviously, and Kurt Cignetti have built the reputation to put out powerful, explosive offenses. So there's no doubting that that's going to happen once again next year, regardless of who's on the field.
Exactly. And no, you cannot expect an undefeated season.
And throw in a name that I didn't even mention there, Charlie Becker, right? So you could potentially have Charlie Becker and Omar Cooper throwing
forget about him. He's done okay.
Yeah, and so that's two phenomenal wide receivers there, and Charlie Becker, a guy who obviously is stepped up in numerous ways, and a guy who's not going to be able to stay off the field now. So just the potential there for any quarterback should be enticing enough. But yeah, still some questions about the offensive line, and then obviously some of the running back questions as well.
Well, and again, this season should continue to add to the opportunity to grab better and better offensive line. And the defensive line I'm still shocked on how well they replaced the production they lost. My gosh, they lost some seriously good players. And boy, that D line has just stepped up for the most part.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously the injury to Kellen Wyatt was significant, but the play of Stephen Daly, right, his emergence, and it goes back to what this coaching staff does in the film room, and their ability to see the skill level translate from the mid-major level now 2 years in a row to the high major level. And this is something not just the defensive line, right? Obviously, what Aiden Fisher has been able to do at the linebacker spot. Obviously, D'Angelo Pons was going to be good no matter where he played, but obviously coming from JMU, some of these other pieces that they've brought with them as well have been able to translate and step up and be big-time players for a number 2 team in the country that has college football playoff championship aspirations, and that's something that the development, the knack that this coaching staff has to really get in the film room and look at all the details, look at the production again over potential, which is what has been their kind of mantra since they've been here, is significant. And I think that's one thing that sometimes could get slightly overlooked nationally, is just what they're able to do, because everyone looks at these big time players at the end of the year and looks at all their stats. A lot of these guys are still mid-major, low major, sometimes even FCS guys. Elijah Surratt started off at St. Francis, built his way up to go to James Madison, now is an all Big Ten, All-American type wide receiver who's going to play in the NFL. So the development that they also bring, just two reasons why this coaching staff is just so fundamentally sound, and are able to obviously put in a program that is now going to be a national power for at least the near future, every single year.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun to watch that as the Hoosiers are off this week. Get to watch a few other teams play, especially down the SEC, to see how things start to take place. Does their spot get solidified even with a loss, depending on what happens below them? But what happens with the SEC, and there's still a lot of fun games to watch.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the interesting part was to hear the new college football committee chair last week, or I guess this past Tuesday, right? The first reveal after he took over, and really talk about Texas A&M and Indiana. I thought that was interesting because all the conversations up to this point with the committee has been 1 and 2, not necessarily 2 and 3. We've always talked about, and I've always thought that Indiana, A&M, and Ohio State are clearly the top 3 teams nationally, and then there's a significant drop off after that from about 4 to 7, 4 to 8. But it was interesting to hear him talk about the Texas A&M comeback. Obviously down 27 points to South Carolina. The ability to come back, and he brought up part of the conversation a couple weeks ago when Indiana obviously had to come from behind to beat Penn State, a team that obviously has not lived up to the expectations and does not have a great record either. But the conversation that he had was both times in the second half, A&M and Indiana looked like the number 2 and number 3 team in the country. And every team is going to have, a bad half or a slow start. It's about how you overcome that. So I thought that was interesting to just hear how he really looked at those rankings. We'll see what happens, though, moving forward, right? I mean, I think the expectation is you're going to go in to championship weekend with these 3 teams being the top 3 teams. And then, we'll see how things shape up after that expected Indiana-Ohio State showdown and what the rankings look like following that game. I think that's what everyone's anticipating, not only from that standpoint, but who's going to get the Big Ten championship, who's going to get potentially the Heisman Trophy from Julian Sayin or Fernando Mendoza at that point of the season, and obviously what happens in the college football playoff seeding for those 2 teams.
A lot of stuff on the line, baby. We made it through. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Thank you, sir. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com, become a subscriber, get entered for lots of free great giveaway merch as well. give a subscription away for a great gift idea for your favorite Hoosier friend, family member, whatever. What a great gift. 50% off, free subscription to The Athletic. Entered into for some great gear. Hell, the grand prize package worth over $400. All kinds of good stuff, Alec.
Absolutely. Make sure you take advantage. Obviously, great holiday gifts for just about anyone, and no better coverage out there than what we have over there. So definitely take advantage.
That's going to wrap it up for Indiana Sports Beat Radio today. Appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks to James Fletcher from On Three, Zach Osterman, Alec Lasley. Most importantly, each and every one of you. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.